In the dim glow of the corporate tower's emergency lights, shadows danced like ghosts across the marble floors. A single dad named Jack Harlan, the night janitor, heard the muffled scuffle before he saw it. His mop bucket clattered to the ground as he rounded the corner. There she was, Elena Voss, the iron-willed CEO of Voss Enterprises, pinned against the executive suite door by two masked figures. One held a gleaming knife, the other a rag soaked in something sharp and chemical. Jack's heart pounded, but his voice stayed steady. "Hey, back off," he lunged, swinging his mop handle like a baseball bat. The crack of wood on bone echoed through the hall. In that split second, he saved her life. But what Elena did next, it turned his world upside down. Jack Harlan wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his calloused hand. It was just another Tuesday evening in the sprawling Voss Enterprises headquarters in downtown Chicago. The clock on the wall ticked past 8 p.m., its hands moving as lazily as the autumn leaves drifting outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. Jack had been mopping these same floors for 8 years now, ever since his wife, Sarah, passed away from that sudden illness that doctors could never quite explain. 8 years of quiet nights, broken only by the hum of the vacuum cleaner and the distant ring of elevators. He was tall man, broad-shouldered from his days playing high school football in a small Illinois town, but life had softened his edges. At 42, his dark hair was streaked with gray, and his blue eyes carried the weight of unspoken worries. Jack's uniform, a faded blue pants and a shirt with the company logo embroidered on the pocket, hung a little loose on his frame. He wasn't one for fancy clothes or big dreams anymore. His world revolved around his son, Tommy, a bright-eyed 10-year-old with Sarah's curly brown hair and a laugh that could light up the darkest room. Every morning, Jack woke at 5 a.m. in their modest two-bedroom apartment on the south side. He'd make Tommy's favorite pancakes, fluffy ones with chocolate chips, while the boy chattered about school projects or the latest video game. "Dad, when I grow up, I'm gonna build robots that clean floors so you don't have to," Tommy would say, his small hands waving like propellers. Jack would smile, ruffle his hair, and reply, "Sounds good, kiddo. But for now, eat up." School bus waits for no one. Those moments were his anchor, the reason he pushed through the ache in his back from hauling trash bins or the loneliness that crept in after Tommy's bedtime stories. But lately, the worries had piled up like unwashed dishes. Tommy's school had hiked the fees for after-school programs, and Jack's paycheck, barely scraping by on $18 an hour, stretched thinner each month. The fridge hummed with sparse contents: milk, bread, a few apples. Bills arrived like unwelcome guests, demanding rent, utilities, and that nagging medical debt from Sarah's final days. Jack lay awake at night, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering if he was failing his boy. "You're doing your best," he'd whisper to himself, echoing Sarah's old words. But best didn't always feel like enough. That evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, painting the office in hues of orange and purple, Jack started his shift with the usual routine. He pushed the cleaning car down the empty halls, the wheels squeaking softly on the polished tile. The building was a fortress of glass and steel, home to Voss Enterprises, a tech giant that churned out software for everything from smartphones to self-driving cars. Elena Voss ruled it all from the top-floor penthouse office, a woman in her mid-40s, sharp as a tack, with raven hair pulled into a severe bun and eyes like polished emeralds. Jack had seen her only in passing, heels clicking past him without a glance, her phone glued to her ear, barking orders that made executives squirm. He didn't resent her for it. Elena was the kind of success story whispered about in boardrooms. Orphaned young, bootstrapped her way through Harvard Business School, turned a startup into a billion-dollar empire. Jack figured she had her own battles, invisible ones behind those power suits. As he dusted the lobby sculpturesque abstract twists of metal that looked like frozen lightning, he paused to watch the city lights flicker on. A gentle breeze slipped through the revolving doors, carrying the scent of rain-soaked streets. It was peaceful here, in the quiet towers. When the suits were gone and the building breathed easy, up on the 25th floor, Elena Voss rubbed her temples, the migraine pulsing like a drumbeat. Spreadsheets glowed on her triple monitors, numbers blurring into a haze of red ink. The board was pressuring her for another merger, rivals circling like sharks. At 45, She had built an empire, but it felt hollow lately. No family photos on her desk, no weekend barbecues. Her calendar was a battlefield of meetings, her nights spent alone in a penthouse that echoed with silence. Pushed through, she muttered, echoing her late father's mantra. But tonight, exhaustion clawed at her edges. She stood to stretch, glancing at the clock. 9:15 p.m., time to head home. Or what passed for it, a sterile condo overlooking Lake Michigan. As she gathered her coat and briefcase, a shadow shifted in the hallway mirror. Her pulse quickened. Footsteps, soft but deliberate. Elena froze, her hand inching toward the desk drawer where she kept a small canister of pepper spray. The door creaked open, and two figures slipped in dark hoods, gloves, faces obscured. "Miss Voss," one growled, his voice muffled. "We need to talk about that deal you blocked." Her mind raced. Corporate espionage, sabotage from a competitor. The knife flashed in the low light, and the raga chloroform, she realized with a chill. Panic surged, but she backed against the wall, voice steady. "You don't want to do this. Security's just a call away." The first man lunged, grabbing her arm. She twisted free, but the second closed in, the rag inches from her face. Down in the maintenance closet, Jack was restocking supplies when the building's alarm system pinged a subtle alert from the executive floor. Motion sensors. He grabbed his radio, but static crackled. Something was wrong. His gut twisted, the same instinct that had pulled him from a car wreck years ago. He bolted for the stairs, taking them two at a time, his work boots thudding against the concrete. The air grew thicker, charged with unspoken dread. He burst onto the 25th floor. The hallway dim and silent except for muffled voices. Peering around the corner, he saw it. Elena struggling, the knife gleaming. Time slowed. Jack's mind flashed to Tommy, his boy's trusting face. No way was he letting this happen on his watch. He snatched the nearest thing, a heavy fire extinguisher from the wall mount, and charged. "Get away from her!" he roared, swinging the canister like a club. It connected with the knife wielder's shoulder, sending him sprawling. The second man whirled, rag forgotten, and lunged at Jack. Fists flew in the dim light, Jack's years of manual labor giving him raw strength. A punch to the gut, a knee to the thigh. Elena seized the moment, grabbing a lamp and smashing it over the second attacker's head. Glass shattered, and he crumpled. Sirens wailed in the distance as security finally responded. Jack slumped against the wall, breathing hard, his knuckles bruised and bloody. Elena stared at him, her chest heaving, eyes wide with a mix of shock and gratitude. You saved me," she whispered, her voice breaking the silence like a pebble in still water. The police arrived in a flurry of lights and questions. The attacker hired muscle from a rival firm. It turned out they were cuffed and dragged away. Elena gave her statement, her usual poise cracking just a fraction. Jack stood quietly, wiping blood from his lip, until an officer pulled him aside. "You're the janitor? Hell of a hero move, buddy." By midnight, the building was locked down, but Elena insisted on speaking to Jack alone in the lobby. The rain had started outside, pattering softly against the glass, a soothing rhythm that eased the tension. She sat across from him on a leather couch, her suit rumpled, makeup smudged. "Mr. Harlan," she said, her voice softer than he'd ever imagined. "Jack, I owe you my life." "Why did you do it?" "You could have called security and stayed safe." Jack shrugged, his hands clasped in his lap. "Couldn't just stand by. Reminded me of protecting my family. Got a son at home, Tommy. He's everything to me." He paused, the words tumbling out unbidden. "Life's been tough since my wife died, but you're the boss." Figured someone had to step up. Elena's eyes softened, searching his face. For the first time in years, she felt seen, and not as the CEO, but as a person teetering on the edge. "Family," she echoed, a wistful note in her tone. "I don't have that. Built all this." She gestured to the tower, but lost sight of what's real. She leaned forward. What she did next changed everything. The next morning, Jack arrived home as the sun crested the horizon, his body aching but his spirit light. Tommy was already up, munching cereal at the kitchen table. "Dad, you're late." "Did you fight monsters at work?" Jack chuckled, pulling his boy into a hug. "Something like that, champ. But the real surprise came via courier that afternoon, a thick envelope with the Voss logo. Inside, a letter from Elena. Dear Jack, last night, you didn't just save my life, you reminded me what courage looks like. Enclosed as a check for $50,000 to cover your debts and give Tommy the future he deserves. But that's not all. Effective immediately, you're promoted to facilities director. No more nights mopping floors. You'll oversee the team, with a salary that lets you breathe. And if you'll allow it, I'd like to meet Tommy, perhaps over dinner. Life's too short for empires without heart. With deepest thanks, Elena Voss. Jack's hands trembled as he read it aloud to Tommy later that evening. The boy's eyes widened. Does that mean we can get a bigger apartment, with a yard for a dog? Jack laughed, tears pricking his eyes. Maybe, kiddo, maybe. Weeks turned to months, and the changes wove into their lives like threads in a tapestry. Jack's new office overlooked the city, but he kept a photo of Sarah on his desk, a touchstone. Elena became a fixture, not just a boss, but a friend. Their first dinner was awkward, plates of pasta steaming on a quiet Italian bistro table. Tommy chattered about robots. Elena listened with genuine interest, her laughter ringing out like bells. You're a natural teacher, she told Jack later, as they walked under street lamps. Like you see the world in straight lines, but with heart. Over time, barriers crumbled. Elena shared her own scars of the lonely childhood, the relentless climb that left her isolated. Jack opened up about Sarah's illness, the nights he'd held Tommy while grief clawed at him. They talked for hours, walks in the park becoming ritual. One crisp fall evening, as leaves swirled around them, Elena took his hand. Jack, you've changed everything for me. Not just the save, but you. Their first kiss was gentle, under a canopy of amber trees, the world fading to a soft blur. Tommy thrived in the new school, joining robotics club with Elena's quiet sponsorship. Jack found balance, a work that challenged without breaking him. Evenings filled with stories and warmth. Elena softened her empire's edges, starting a foundation for single parents, inspired by Jack's quiet strength. 1 year later, on a snowy December night, Jack stood in the tower's lobby, the same spot where it all began. Elena, radiant in a simple white dress, walked toward him, Tommy beaming as ring-bearer. I do, she whispered, her voice steady. Vows exchanged, they danced under twinkling lights, the city a blanket of white below. In the end, it wasn't the ambush that defined them, but the choices after. Jack learned that heroes wear work boots, and Elena discovered that power shared multiplies. Life, fragile as it is, rewards those who reach out. So, what's your story? Who's the quiet hero in your world? Take a moment today to reach out, connect. It just might change everything.